At the San Diego City Zoo, one enclosure consistently drew the largest crowds. It housed a magnificent family of African lions, a formidable male named Leo, distinguished by his dark, thick mane, his elegant mate, and their two playful cubs. Each day, hundreds of visitors gathered around this enclosure, mesmerized by the strength and beauty of these incredible predators. On that particularly hot summer day, the lions lounged in the shade, occasionally casting glances at the crowd surrounding their habitat. The zoo staff had recently installed a new feeding barrel in the enclosure, a large, durable plastic container featuring several holes of varying sizes. This enrichment device was specifically designed to engage the lions' natural instincts. To access the food inside, the lions needed to employ their intelligence, strength, and patience, much like they would when hunting in the wild. Inside the barrel were tasty chunks of meat, and the enticing aroma quickly captured the lion's attention. Leo was the first to take interest in the barrel. He slowly stood up, stretched, and walked toward the new object. His massive figure radiated power and confidence. Every movement showed that he was a true king of the animal world. The rest of the pride watched their leader with curiosity. Leo started investigating the barrel, sniffing it and carefully tapping it with his paw. The smell of meat became more tempting, and the lion began to explore the holes, trying to reach the food. Gradually, his actions became more determined. He pushed the barrel, tried to fit his paw into the openings, and rolled it across the ground. The visitors watched in amazement. Children laughed joyfully as the enormous predator played with the unusual toy like a giant house cat. No one in the zoo that day could have imagined that within minutes, their laughter would turn into screams of horror. At one moment, as Leo attempted to grab an especially tempting piece of meat, he pushed his head too far into one of the holes. In a split second, his head was stuck inside the barrel. At first, the lion didn't seem to notice and continued trying to get the food. But when he attempted to pull his head out, he realized something was wrong. Initially, Leo remained relatively calm, methodically trying to free himself. He shook his head, stepped backward, and tried to grab the barrel with his paws. However, as the seconds passed, his movements became more forceful and erratic. The barrel, stuck tightly around his head, began to irritate and frighten him. The lion started running wildly around the enclosure, bumping into obstacles and losing his sense of direction. His powerful body crashed against the walls. He stumbled over rocks, fell, and got back up again. The rest of the pride backed away into a corner of the enclosure, unsure of what was happening to their leader. The crowd near the enclosure grew larger. People pulled out their phones to record the scene while others ran to call the zookeepers. The cheerful atmosphere quickly turned into one of tension as everyone realized that the situation was becoming dangerous. Leo continued his frantic struggle with the barrel. He ran into the water trough, sending water splashing everywhere, knocked over a feeding station, tripped over a log, and tumbled across the ground. With a loud roar, the plastic barrel banged against the rocks, but did not loosen. Every new attempt to free himself only made the situation worse. Almost half an hour had passed, and the lion was beginning to tire. His movements became less powerful, but more desperate. Through the plastic, the sound of his heavy, labored breathing could be heard. It was clear he was starting to suffocate. By this time, nearly the entire zoo staff had gathered around the enclosure. The veterinarians were preparing a tranquilizer, but they all knew that even if they managed to sedate Leo, the other lions would not allow people to enter the enclosure safely. A different solution was needed, and time was running out. Among the concerned spectators was James Hawk, a man who had dedicated his life to working with large predators. For 20 years, he had worked in wildlife reserves and rehabilitation centers, caring for lions, tigers, leopards, and bears. He had rescued these animals from terrible conditions in illegal circuses and private menageries, helping them recover and earn their trust. James carefully observed the situation, analyzing every detail. His experience told him the lion didn't have much time left. Panic and lack of oxygen could soon cause him to lose consciousness or, worse, die. Immediate action was needed. He knew the risk he was taking. It was one thing to work with animals he had known for years, but something entirely different to enter an enclosure with unfamiliar, distressed lions. However, his years of experience gave him an advantage. He understood the body language of big cats, knew how they reacted, and could predict their behavior. Without hesitation, James took off his jacket and emptied his pockets. Then, without a word, he climbed over the enclosure fence. The crowd gasped. Someone screamed. The zookeepers rushed toward him, but it was too late. James was already inside. His sudden appearance briefly startled Leo. The lioness and young lions tensed but did not move. James started walking slowly toward the struggling lion, his movements smooth, his voice calm and steady. After years of working with big cats, he had mastered this skill. Gentle movements and a quiet, even voice helped animals trust him. Every step felt like slow motion as James closely watched the reactions of all the lions, ready to respond instantly to any sign of aggression. His heart was pounding, but he outwardly remained calm. Predators could sense fear and hesitation. Leo began thrashing again, but his movements were weaker now. His strength was fading. James waited for the right moment, moved closer, and firmly grasped the barrel. The lion growled softly, but did not attack. Maybe he sensed that the human was trying to help, or perhaps he was just too exhausted to resist. Now came the most dangerous part. James carefully examined the edges of the barrel, searching for a way to remove it. His face was just inches away from the lion's powerful jaws. One wrong move, one panicked reaction from the lion, and the consequences would be deadly. Sweat dripped into his eyes and his hands shook from tension, but James methodically continued working. He found the spot where the lion's neck was trapped the most and began carefully pressing in specific places to widen the hole. The plastic slowly creaked and started to give way. Suddenly, Leo jerked violently, and James lost his balance. As he fell, he caught a glimpse of movement from the side. The lioness had taken a step toward him. A wave of cold fear washed over him, but even in that moment, he forced himself to stay calm, slowly standing back up and resuming his work. It felt like an eternity before the long-awaited crack was heard. A few more seconds of intense effort, and the lion's head was finally free. Leo jumped back, gasping for air and shaking his head. James, careful not to make any sudden moves, slowly backed away toward the fence. The lion watched him with dazed eyes, breathing heavily. The rest of the pride also kept their eyes on him, but remained where they were. Every step James took felt like it lasted forever. At last, his hand touched the metal fence. In one swift motion, he climbed over it just as the crowd erupted into thunderous applause. Only after reaching safety did he take a deep breath, realizing how much his knees were shaking from the tension. The zoo director, still in disbelief as he shook James's hand, expressed his astonishment at the events that had unfolded. After discovering James' extensive experience with big cats, the director offered him a position as a consultant for the zoo's animal enrichment programs. As a gesture of appreciation, James was presented with a lifetime pass to the zoo. Leo made a full recovery from the incident, and the feeding barrels were replaced with safer alternatives. Most importantly, this experience highlighted that even in the most perilous situations, there are individuals ready to risk everything to save an animal's life. What are your thoughts on this amusing yet unfortunate lion and his savior? We'd love to hear from you in the comments section. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update from our channel. Thank you for your support.